Hello. That's much better. Okay, now that I've solved that microphone issue. Hello. So I attempted to get off to a good start yesterday, and a bunch of things went wrong at home, as tends to be the case. And unfortunately today is not necessarily going to be much better, as I only have about 2 hours, a little less than 2 hours, until I have to go out and deal with some things. But with that in mind, let's just crack on as quickly as I can. Jumping over to my console. So we're going into repositories, manic photons, and let's jump on into Nidavellir. Okay, so last night, or yesterday, I was looking at setting up a multi-threaded job system quickly, as a means of demonstrating different profiling options. Let me just quickly update my Nidavellir packages. So stop shouting at me. There we go. I had a little bit of playing around with some options late last night when I was unable to stream. And I think just as a rough idea, I'm probably going to be going for something like this for my job system, where I have a variety of different jobs that need to be run with different inputs, and then I would store references to each of those as an enum, as the task type. I'd also store a union of different possible inputs and a union of different possible outputs, and therefore I can create a task structure that knows what the function it's supposed to run is, what is handed a copy of the possible inputs, a copy of the possible outputs, and also gets a Boolean result back. I may change this to another enum. In fact, I almost certainly will. That way I've got more options for error codes and things. And then to run it, I would wind up creating a task, pass in some inputs, pass in an output, and then I would have some code. I could run something like this, execute task as a proc, which takes a task, which is a reference to it, pointed to a task, something like this. And then I would need to switch. Let me just double check switch statements. How am I doing switch statements in Odin? Yeah, so we'll switch on the task.type. And then we just run through them on a case-by-case basis, like task type dot. What did I have up here? I said the task type is an add U8, so from my enum that lists all potential tasks, I would know how to handle each case internally. So I would do something like X is defined equal. Sorry, my keyboard layers have been a bit of a pain. For those who don't know, I use a 40% keyboard, but I'm currently trying out a new configuration, so it's taking me a little while to get my typing up to speed. So we would be able to do something like this: task.input dot pair U8 dot X. This is just intended to give you some rough idea of how this could work. We don't need these. It's not C or C++ or what have you. And then we would get a result equals add u8 x comma y. And let me just double check. I was having it return a Boolean as well. Sum comma OK. And then I would go back into our task and modify its output to be a U8 because that's what I got back from a U8 input from a U8 function. I'll put sum there and task dot result. Really should be success, something like that. So we'll do something like this. And then do I need to break out? How do I do this for various such statements? One second. Switch statements. Seeing as I'm no Odin expert, I'm just wanting to make sure that I'm doing things correctly. Okay, yeah, it's just a wrap in a case block. Okay, and then we would have other cases down there. Okay. So having created a task like this, I could append task to queue, sometime later pop task off task queue, and then execute task. I'm assuming that's how we do it. Yes, so this is a pointer correctly, and that's dereferencing the pointer. There we go. Okay, fine. So super simple. I have a way of executing these tasks. However, in order to truly see the benefit of this, we'd need to have a bunch of different tasks. And I don't necessarily want to write a bunch of mock tasks to set this up, given that I'm going to have to write a bunch of tasks in the near future anyway. Plus, we only have a short amount of time today, and what I didn't include in here is that I would set up a thread system where I have a bunch of different threads, worker threads, running. Each of them has access to two single reader, single writer queues, and then the main thread is essentially syncing things up across them, popping tasks off its master queue list and assigning them to different threads task queues as needed. We'd also need to make some sort of work stealing system where if we're getting close to the end of the frame, most of the tasks are completed, but one of the threads maybe still has 6 or 7 tasks pending in its queue, with the other worker threads having finished, we'd want some way of popping the tasks off the end of the single reader, single writer queue that the thread's using, in order to pass those tasks to the empty queues of the threads that are currently doing nothing. So, you know, there's a bunch of little bits of work in there to get done. What I'm thinking for today makes more sense is instead, let's just get a window up and running. You know, I want to get on. So let's take this all back to here. So we have our window. We have our Odin program. If I do make all, I've still got a bunch of things to do over there. Okay, sorry, 1 second. Wow. That was a dumb mistake, because I've just realized with my new layer system, I actually don't have the easiest way of fixing that. Let's just close this. You can go away. You can go away. Right. Terminal, mid. There we go. Repository, manic photons. Nidavellir. Nvim into the makefile. I will get there eventually. Okay. And then we just want to Odin build. And let me double check the parameters. Yeah, it's just the out flag. Okay, so Odin build, our source directory is simply code. And we will output to binaries. Nidavellir. And let's add a run target. Let's just put it in here. And then read slash. That's right? Syntax error. Expected a package. I am just doing a really great job. Okay, so there we've got this. I need to make all of this go silent. So, make files, I think it's an @ sign. Make files. Yeah. Yeah. There we go. There we go. Okay, fine. We've got things up and running. Okay, let's make file. Let's jump over here. Now, here we are. So we are starting our package, Nidavellir, and we're just printing "Hello World" from the main. Just standard "Hello World" intro to any programming language. But that's not what we want. We want to switch over to creating a window with SDL, and given SDL3 has started to be released, that seems like the way to go. So let me just pull up some documentation on SDL3, seeing as I'm not familiar with it yet. Okay. So, we are going to need to begin by pulling in one of the vendor libraries. So the vendor libraries, one of the things I love about Odin from looking around with it is it has this concept of vendor libraries. It has built the language comes with all the framework you need to make use of a whole bunch of very helpful third-party libraries, such as SDL3. So all the bindings from C to Odin are all set up, and these are all in the SDL in the vendor packages, the vendor libraries. Let me just double check, because I need to do actually SDL3 for SDL, not SDL4. Okay. So we start in SDL3 by initializing. So if SDL, maybe SDL3 because that's what I'm using. I could just make an alias to make that just SDL, but it's fine. Whatever. In SDL3, SDL3.initVideo, and if that fails, we need to handle it. So we would use SDL3.log, seems. I'm probably going to change that because I'm going to be using my own logging system down the line, but for now, this is fine. SDL3 init error. And let's just pass in whatever string we can access. With get error. Okay, there we go, and we'll just return out. Fine. Then, another nice part of Odin is the ability to defer function calls. So as you fall out of scope, anything. Got some interesting transparency going on with my green screen. Sorry, slightly distracting. As a defer call falls out of scope, it executes. So this is just like using. This is just like using RAII in C++, for example. And one of the things that's nice is as things fall out of scope, they trigger in reverse order. So what that means here is, let's just see over the next over this call and the next one. So at the end of this main proc, I want us to quit SDL because we finished, and quit is the corresponding operation after a successful init. So there we go. Next, we will create a simple window. Create window. Nidavellir. For a title. We will ask for it to be centered. So it's window pos. So we need to normally pass it an X and a Y for saying where you want the window to appear. I'm asking for it to be centered in the screen. Easy enough. Let's create a width and a height. So I'm running at 1080p. So let's say instead of 1920, let's say 960. And instead of 1080 will be 540. So this will represent a quarter of the screen's real estate. And just for the hell of it, we will create an OpenGL context for now. Purely because even we're going to be using Vulkan, but might as well create an OpenGL window for now, because OpenGL is incredibly trivial to set up, whereas Vulkan takes quite an annoying amount of code to set up. So we're going to try and create a window here, just as we tried to init SDL there. And then if the window is nil, we know we failed, so we will go up here, grab this, SDL, create window, error, and there we go, return. Now, that, not sure why I've got those semicolons. Okay, so let's demonstrate defer. Destroy window. Okay, so what we're doing is we are initiating SDL3, queuing up, shutting down SDL3 with a quit. Then we are trying to create a window with SDL3. If it fails, then we're going to exit here. And as this exit is after this defer statement, if we get this far, when it returns, this SDL3 quit will be triggered to clean up the initialized memory from SDL3 init. Done. However, if it doesn't fail, if we successfully created a window, we want to, at the end of the main procedure, when we fall out of scope, destroy that window. Seems reasonable. So we call this, and because defer statements are processed in reverse order, when we fall out of scope, first we would destroy the window, then we would quit SDL3 itself. So that's the idea of defer. Nice simple idea. Works well. Let's create a little boolean, and we are going to create an little event. And that way we can do some event handling. So firstly, for loops with a single value, like here, for is running. This is a way for us to do the equivalent of a while loop in Odin. Yeah, okay. So while it's running, we're going to keep an eye on the event queue. So we'll poll for an event, passing in a reference to our system event. Okay. And this is going to keep going while that doesn't return null. No, it doesn't return 0. Okay. In which case, we can switch on the system event type. This is a bit like the switch statement I had earlier for processing, potentially processing tasks. I have some interesting settings on my chroma key on my green screen, causing my chair to become quite ghost-like. I will need to address that shortly. So if it gets a quit event, well, that's something we definitely want to be on the lookout for, because in that case, is running will be set to false. And we also want to keep checking for key down events. Now, I'm not sure. Up here, I only initialized video. I may need to initialize event handling up there. I can't remember if that was detailed in the documentation for SDL3 that I was looking at just now. So I will probably need to come back to that very soon. Okay. If system event dot key, say it's a keyboard event, then if the key okay, equals SDL3 dot key code dot. Let me just double check. So I'm currently on the Odin website looking through their packages, and within SDL3 you can search for things. So if I search for key code, it's a distinct U32. Okay. What if I search for... Oh, wrong one. K underscore escape. I assume that's what I'm after then. DL3 dot K underscore. There we are. So in the event that there's a key down event sent through and that it relates to the escape key being pressed, then Let's just have is running false. I'm not sure if I need to send a specific message. Oh, this reformatting. Yeah, it's bound to happen because I'm using Odin format, which comes with OLS, I believe, the Odin language server, which is triggering that, I think. So I need to set up my formatting rules. And then let's just add a delay for rendering, and we'll just say SDL3.delay, and we can pass in a number of milliseconds, so let's add 16 milliseconds. Why not? If I do all of this and then hop over to my terminal, if I go here, let's clean it. I'm curious just how badly I've messed up the code so far, so let's see. Aha! So an event quit is not, and an event key down is not declared. Got it. For those first two, is there an event type? Yeah, I'm assuming that's what this is. Yeah, type is an event type. Okay. There. One error remaining. So when I switch on the system event type, there's a bunch of cases I'm not handling. Okay, so let me just double check switch statements. So do I need to mark it as a partial switch? I assume so. I assume that system event type is an enum, in which case I can just say partial switch, and that should resolve the issue. Yeah. And that way, Odin knows that this isn't going to handle every case. Fine. Ooh, okay. So SDL3 init. I need to check next. Package. This is what you get for mixing and matching the documentation. So, init. It does return a bool, not an integer. So here, I can just do that. Let's check create window. It returns a window pointer. I don't see what's wrong with this. Is it not able to understand that I'm making a pointer? Yeah. Too many arguments. Oh, okay. Yeah, interesting. So it needs a C string title, done that. It needs a couple of 32-bit integers, which is what these are. These constants are for telling it to automatically use, to automatically send to the window. Fine. It then takes some window flag. No, that's the wrong one. Yes, it takes some flags, some window flags. Okay. So I'm just going to take a title, a width, and a height, and then some window flags. Is window OpenGL one of those window flags? Related constants, OpenGL, yeah. And while I'm just double checking here, do I have anything? No, okay, I think that works. Let's try. And then it's just another incorrect Boolean conversion. Yeah. Let me just check documentation for poll event. Yeah, seems fine. Okay. I think now have I not made my window visible by let's see, yeah. -e rep Nidavellir. Yeah, so I am creating a Nidavellir window in here. If I cancel that, and run this again, now Nidavellir is gone. Okay, so point is that's should be set up and making a window. That's what I wanted to go in here. Okay, you know what? Let's make that window briefly. Let's make that window visible. So yeah, that would make sense. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to take this out because we don't need it anymore, given we're using SDL3 input, SDL3 log for now. We're going to need OpenGL, which, as I say, will be switched to. We'll be switching over to Vulkan in the very near future. I think I have to do that. Oh, I'm getting a bunch of messages on my phone. Okay. I'm not actually sure which version of SDL of OpenGL we are using this way. So let's see. We need a context. created an OpenGL context. So OpenGL, for the uninitiated, Vulkan is the updated, the replacement for OpenGL. And the reason that needed to come about is because we're living in a multi-threaded world. We have been for a long time, but OpenGL was designed for use really in single-threaded contexts. And that's largely due to how OpenGL works. It's essentially a state machine. And that's what the OpenGL context we're just creating is. That is our OpenGL state machine. And then we're going to be feeding in state commands, and it's going to be executing them and switching states as needed when it's asked to draw, based on what we've fed it. So I'm not going to go deep into this stuff because we're going to be going into Vulkan's details, which will be far more important for this engine. So one thing that's nice about SDL3 is apparently you are quite easily able to create things, create the context or what have you for your rendering backend from SDL3, and it will pass in some default parameters or what have you to make sure everything works as expected with the windows you've made. At least that's my understanding. Like I say, not an SDL expert, or even I've barely touched it. You have literally just watched the majority of my interactions with SDL3. So. But let's just double check we're able to create our context. And if we aren't, for whatever reason, we're going to log it. Like so, and return. And this return statement, just like before, this return statement would then trigger destroy window, because that's the top of the stack of defer statements, and then underneath that we have an SDL quit. So that's going to shut everything down for us. Likewise, if we've succeeded, we want to add an SDL.gl underscore delete context and pass it ROGL context to clear up that state machine. Oh, that's SDL3. Yeah. Once we've gone through our event polling, we will need to clear the screen. So we will do OpenGL dot clear color, and let me look up a cornflower blue. Why cornflower blue? Because I spent a bunch of time in one of my first contracts doing Exadé, which was a C# based sort of framework that Microsoft released, so you could make games for Windows but also for the Xbox 360, and its default was to clear to cornflower blue. I've just always liked that ever since, so there we go, there's a cornflower blue apparently color. Then we're going to clear. I want to double check all of this because this does not seem I doubt it's as simple as this. Right, 16 milliseconds to approximate 60 FPS. There you go. Just something like that. It's already shouting at me that there's errors. So, package. Let's jump into SDL3 first. Let's look for delete context. It's destroy context, not delete context. Fine. Now down here, I'm surprised I didn't have to somehow set the state machine there. Let's just check. No, that's correct. This is interesting. Very interesting. Okay. Let's see what the error messages are. Excuse me. There we go. Undeclared name OpenGL. Okay, I thought OpenGL was the correct name for the package, the vendor package. Let's just double check. I mean, it is. Let me just show you. I'm not imagining things. It is package vendor OpenGL. Let's pull up some examples. So let's go to their get. We must have an OpenGL. Maybe there's something in here. No. Am I being blind? GLFW. Okay. Using OpenGL. Okay, they're just giving it a simple alias of GL. Maybe that's the right thing to do. Segfault. Interesting. Okay. Interesting. Where is the segfault happening? Create window takes a C string for the title, a width, a height, and some flags. That's all it takes. A width, a height, and some flags. Yes. Okay. Not quite sure why. So a few quick debugging statements. Let's try that. So ready to create the message loop. So the segfault is happening within the message loop. That's interesting. Let's take out those calls. Let's take out those calls. Okay. Without those calls, it doesn't crash. Got it. So OpenGL is probably not been set correctly somewhere. What if I do this? Okay. So I think it has to be those OpenGL calls. Like, if I try and set the clear color, I think that's going to fail. Yeah, so forth. Okay. Didn't mean to do that. There we go. Okay, so this is the problem. This is the problem. So let's go back to looking at our SDL3 documentation. So I am getting the context from GL create context. Okay. Which is this. Let's look at the source code of it. Okay. So I'm just having a look through the SDL3 documentation now. Before window creation, I think I have to set attributes. Okay. Let's have a look at this. Because in if this was just running in C or C++, I would instead, that was so dumb, I would instead need to call GL set attribute before creating the window to tell it about which version of OpenGL I wanted to make. So let's try that. One second, I need to take this call. Sorry about that. Right. Let's tell SDL3 about OpenGL. how to, about the OpenGL attributes we require. There we go. So we will be using SDL3.gl_set attribute. There we are. Now it uses a GL attribute and a value. So we will be setting SDL3.gl context major. Oh, forgot I haven't set that up. Version. And let's just use 3.3 for now. Why? Why not? Why not? Profile mask. And we will set it to SDL3.gl text profile core. There we are. Now let's try this with these Aha! Okay, well, we're getting places. Okay. This is good, we're actually getting places. So, GL context profile core. I wonder if there's a set profile. Okay. So that's the profile mask, that's certainly right, and then so it takes a GL attribute and then a value. Okay. You know what? This may not even be needed. Let's try that. Called dumped. Okay. Let's go back into docs examples. Lang examples. There was this simple version. That's using GLFW. That's not what I want. Does SDL2 have or OpenGL. God. So I just need to cast it to a 32-bit integer. So it is actually the right setting. I do need it in there. I just need to cast it correctly. So I 32. There. I think that might now work. No. Okay. I still need to load OpenGL procedures once the context is established, unless that's happening internally when I create a context. So let's look at this. Let's jump into the source. Let's check the SDL3 documentation. Oh. Okay. Okay, so I think that is the problem. I think that's what's going on. So that would make a lot of sense. Let me explain. I am telling SDL3 about the version and profile I want to load for my SDL context once I create my window. Then I create my window using OpenGL. Then I create the context from the window. However, in OpenGL, you need to load the functions that you're going to use into your context. They're essentially function pointers that are set there waiting to be used. Until they're assigned, they're just pointed to nothing. Therefore, if you call one of those functions, you're going to get a segfault. So I think that's what's going on here. Now, does that mean I need to do OGL dot load up to, and then I'm saying 3 because that's what we were saying up here. So I should really pull those out as a separate variable, but we're only doing this as a quick test. and SDL3 dot GL set proc address. There we go. Okay. I don't think I'm quite doing it right, but I think it's close enough that that I think will at least request the OpenGL 3.3 functions to be loaded into the context, the function pointers, I think. And sure enough, there's our window. And if I hit escape, well, if I hit other keys, nothing happens, but if I hit escape, boom. Nice. Okay, so what we've done here is we have created a very simple window that's using SDL3 but running OpenGL. Now we're going to do a far more complex window in the near future, running Vulkan instead. But already I am quite pleased that in the short time this morning, given that I don't know SDL3 from Adam, that we've been able to get something up and running. Now this code is not particularly good, so we are going to be cleaning that up. So first things first, let's get rid of all of these core format statements. We're going to be debugging properly in the future anyway, rather than using statements to look through. Right, let's check that our terminal is still happy. Oh, I missed one. Right at the start. Let's read the first line of the function. Fine. Okay. Now we do need this temporarily. Okay. Let's create some OpenGL. You know, I'm just going to nick how they do it in the Odin example. So we create a constant. So in OpenGL, in Odin, you can declare constants. This double semicolon is essentially a declaration. So for example, here we have a main which has been declared as a procedure that takes no inputs and returns nothing. If it took a string, it would look something like this, and if it returned, say, a Boolean, then you would do something like that. Okay, but our main takes nothing, returns nothing. Don't need anything there. Done. Now, here we're creating declaring another type of constant, OGL major version, like this. Now, when you want to be more specific, you can do so by declaring an inner type. So, for example, here I could say I want really. There. I could say I am declaring type with value, declared with value 3. Which I quite like. I like that you can specify. I just think that the syntax is... I think the syntax could be improved. Okay. But with that done, we can then go in here. Like this. And likewise down here. There. I really want to sort my Odin formatting rules. I'll be doing that shortly. If I have time, I might even do that before I stop. Okay. Cool. Wonder if these could fail. Packages, vendor library, OpenGL, GL set attribute. Oh, whoops, it's meant to be on SDL3. I'm searching for that. GL underscore set attribute. Yes, it can return a Boolean. So I can say if not. There we go. Fine. Now the question is, do I need to set these before window creation or can I set them before context? That would be a slightly neater way of doing it if I can. beef window creation. Okay, so that should be done before create window. The other thing that I got a bit lucky with actually is I should have also called SDL3.gl make current. That takes the window and the context. And let me just double check. Make current. Yeah, it can fail, so usual deal. There. And if I check OpenGL, load up to takes ints, those are ints. If I change these to int, there. Let's try that. Nice. Okay. Honestly, this seems good. As a quick little bit of window creation with some keyboard handling. Yeah. Yeah. And this seems like a good minimal introduction for the engine. I think this is a decent place to commit. Now the code directory is no longer empty, so I can get rid of that. Right. Get status. Nice. Have I missed anything? Just very, very quickly. Yeah. I don't see anything in particular I need to do here. I do want to get my my code refactoring correctly. This is fine. Let's keep that as a separate commit. Get status. So this is create. I need to get my GPG key because I've not signed anything yet today. There we are. Here we are. Boom. And let's grab our GitLab. And I'm doing things through SSH. Let's grab my SSH key. SSH. Add ID GitLab. Nice. And if we jump over here, do a refresh, we have our latest code up on the website. Nice, as expected. Cool. So, jumping back into here for now. It's 1 o'clock. I only have about 20 minutes until I am going to have to run. Let's look at OLS and Odin format. So I need to add a new file into my root directory for the project. Let's just grab a quick example. I actually set this up to 119. Why 119? Because I like to use the full width of this window, and this split occurs at on the 1/20th character. Should you have long lines? No. You should argue strongly against having long lines of text. It is considerably less readable. Does that mean that every line will be perfectly within an 80-line character limit or whatever? An 80-column character limit or whatever? No. I'm human and flawed, and also sometimes needs must. For example, this line here, which is rather long, goes out to column 103. So, when you've got web addresses and things, or certain functions, certain commands, document links, as an example, if I'm providing a link to an external document discussing an algorithm I've implemented, the paper that inspired the algorithm may well have a very long URL. So I'll allow this. Do I use tabs? True, yes. Do I use tabs that are 4 characters wide? No, I like 8 characters. Old school C. So character width, spaces. Likewise, same thing. New line limit is a nice one. This limits how many blank lines you can have between content. I like a limit of 2, I think. As in, I like to be able to have. I like to have 2 blank lines, not more than 2 blank lines. I don't know if that is doing enough by one error. If that's setting it so that there can only be a maximum of 1 new line. Blank new line between sections. So I'm going to check that in a second. Sort imports, no. I do not want that because, for example, we have just, I go over here, just imported OpenGL and made a few assignments underneath as a temporary. Do not want that changing. Let's see what happens now if I add a bunch of those lines. I think I need to set OLS to run the Odin formatter. I thought it was already set, but OLS can also be configured locally. Let's just grab this. Now, I am also going to add a .get ignore in here. Odin format.json and OLS. Why? Because I don't want them going in my repo. Just because I like certain settings, it doesn't mean you should be required to like them too. So let's see what it's got. Schema, collections. Okay, I'm going to set this up properly. Document symbols, hover, false, snippets, true. We want to enable format. True. Semantic tokens, syntax highlighting. Okay. Document symbols. Sure. Fake methods. No. Inlay hints. Procedural snippet. Okay. Checker only saved. Only comment. Enable references. Rename. Odin command. No. Checker args, pass custom arguments. Vote. Log warnings instead of just errors. Profile is the default. Okay, this all makes a lot of sense. So the checker path, not. I'm just going to move it. Nice. Okay, so that's actually working. Isn't it? Yes. When it's detecting real errors, real changes, yes, it's working. Okay, that's good. That's good. What's less good is down here. What I want to have is let me indent case statements. Let me put that on a single line, like this. But if I save, that's going to switch back to where it was. Okay. Odin format. How do I configure that? Okay, so Odin format actually doesn't allow indenting like I want, and it does that quite deliberately. It's part of its design philosophy because it wants to encourage a consistent style across all users of the language. It's a little annoying, but it is what it is. Okay. Break statements. I can probably do something like this. I think that'll work. Okay, fine. You know what? This is okay. I think like this. Now, isn't there if do statements, I think, to let me make this into a single line? In which case, that would just be if do oops. Now escape's not doing anything, but A to send it. Okay. Okay, I actually quite like that. Everyone uses Odin format. Okay. If we quit now, we've got get status. So we've got that get ignore, a few small changes. Now this is really a bit of, I think this would count as a policy change. There. Nice. Okay. 20 past. Okay, unfortunately, that is all I'm able to do for now, and possibly even for the rest of today, which is rather frustrating. But we have a quickly set up SDL3 window with a little event loop. We can check for key input. So the next stages will involve finishing off this initial setup phase. That means I want to create an audio playback system, probably using Mini Audio, which is one of the libraries that Odin provides through its vendor packages. Although I don't think Gingerbill, who makes Odin, has anything to do with Mini Audio. I could be wrong. I'm not used to Mini Audio. I'm far more used to using Fmod, WIs, that sort of thing. But I want to go open source completely, and this is open source, and it has these nice bindings available with Odin itself. So that seems like the way to go. We're not going to be doing anything fancy with the sound, at least not for some time. So certainly not for Enco Foundations. We may need to do something a bit more fancy for Inhuman Witness, which is the game that's ultimately this engine's been written for. But yes, the initial phase, we've got graphics. Nothing special at all, but we just need to be able to show a window on the screen and clear the color. So graphics set up to a satisfactory level to keep going until we rip it out, which will be one of the main sprints we've got coming up. Section 2 will be adding in Mini Audio. Why? We don't want to overlook audio, and it'll be really useful actually for the following part, which is the job queue that I mentioned previously. So we could start doing some things like having over here, instead of just cornflower blue, have this cycle through various states. In fact, I'm going to go further than that. I will make a minimal version of OpenGL running a simple vertex and fragment shader, and we'll do like a Mandelbrot or something simple, but that will give us options for tasks to be set up in here, that we can then push to our task queue, and then we won't multi-thread it to begin with. We'll keep it single-threaded, but we'll start using a task queue. And the reason for not multi-threading straight away is because we haven't set up Vulkan yet. And as I said earlier, the big advantage of Vulkan over OpenGL is it gives you way more, it's way more verbose, which means more work actually typing stuff out, but it gives you way better low-level control, and it is much better suited for multi-threading. So that would make sense. Yes, there we go. We will add audio. We will expand on the OpenGL system to do, let's say, Mandelbrot rendering, a Mandelbrot renderer. And we will create the task system without multi-threading it. That sounds good. And then we just need to also set up a configuration system. So for example, a config file that's read at startup to know which color should we clear to, which key is set to be the shutdown key currently, which versions of OpenGL do we want to load. All of these are things that we could load from a config file, and just doing that already, even though much of that data doesn't matter for us ultimately, in the short term it means we've got something in place using, I'm guessing I'll use a JSON file for that, a text config file, so that once we've got Vulkan being set up, we will have far more options we can configure there within that configuration file, just as we'll be able to configure background music levels and what have you in Mini Audio. Done. So there we go. Let's just add a quick to-do note at the top. To do. Expand on OpenGL to create a Mandelbrot renderer. To do. Add in simple audio from vendor. Wow. Mini Audio. Create a simple task queue, single threaded for now. And what was the other thing I wanted to do? Oh yes, to do create and load config files, config file, automatically assigning suitable defaults for values not provided. End sprint and move on to Vulkan. Then multi-threaded task system, then profiling week. And that's where I really want to get to, is profiling week, so I can teach you all what you're actually, how you should be using profilers, what's the sort of data you're collecting, what is throughput, what is latency, when you're using a multi-threaded system, what does that mean in those contexts? When might you want to split a task that runs over an array of objects into several tasks running over that array, with task 1 running over index 0 through to index x, and task 2 running from index x to index y, and task 3 running from index y to index z, and blah, 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 so on. How would you split that up? Why would you split that up? And also, we want to make use of perf on Linux, and I'll show you how to look for cache misses, track your cache misses, because data locality is key. It is. It's going to be about half the job of what we're doing. Like it's data locality is so important. The actual implementation of the physics and things, to me, is simpler, given my physics background. I can understand that to someone with more of a programming background, the data locality part, that might be the trivial thing, and you're going to struggle more with the physics implementation or what have you. So my choice of wording just now was perhaps a bit unfair. But for me, data locality is going to be a big part of setting this up. Okay, so sorry I have to run off, but I have an appointment in just over 3 minutes, so I literally need to run. Have a great day. Bye-bye.